leaders luncheon or the women's luncheon at TechServe. Lauren and Leslie Vickery are about to jump on right behind me. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute it because it's probably going to be loud and you're going to see random people walk by. But we'll be live shortly.
Leslie up and say thank you. Show this week. Worked really closely with them, so our messaging and everything like that. So I really appreciate Clear Eyes and our entire team. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, can you all hear me okay? All right, thank you so much. I'm Leslie Vickery. I'm the CEO and founder of Clear Edge Marketing, and it is my absolute honor to be sponsoring this luncheon for the 16th year. Susan, you really set the bar early for supporting women, and I remember coming to the first luncheon. It was a little chaotic. We were trying to figure out what was happening, and naturally, a lot of women just kind of grounded and gravitated together. How many of you were at that luncheon 16 years ago? Rachel Holmstad, Carol, very nice, several of you. Jamie Delsing, I know you've been a regular here. Thank you so much. So how many of you have been to this luncheon before? Just by show of hands. Okay, how many of you were at the luncheon when it was here last time? Do you all remember what happened when I stood up here? I had just found out I was pregnant.
Yes.
And it was a surprise. I was 42 at the time. My husband and I had been married for quite some time and we weren't expecting it. So I showed up here, stood up in front of you, and started crying. And I have to tell you, one of the reasons why was because I wasn't getting a ton of support. And I would get questions like, oh, you own your own company. Are you going to close it now that you're pregnant and expecting a child? And have to look back at one of my great mentors to say, you know what, you own your own company and you have a daughter. How did you do it? Maybe you can mentor and coach and help me. And use it as a real learning moment for myself to use my voice and for the male I was sitting across from to better understand how he can support and sponsor me on my journey. But what you all did was you all opened your arms, you cried with me, and you showed me a level of support that I hadn't seen in a long time. So thank you for all of you who were here. And what I didn't realize what would happen coming out of 16 years of this is a room of this size. To see 130 plus people, our male allies asking you to join. Thank you to the behind of the room. Thank you so much. We can't make change unless we do this together and support one another. So a funny thing about this group of women who come together, that year, Erica Hyson was the keynote speaker when we were here last time. She's now the president of my company. So several years later, building those relationships, you can see what can happen. I guess I need to dream a little bit bigger because I also didn't realize I'd be publishing a book, Together We Rise, with 14 other women in the industry, 2 of whom are standing right here, Rhonda and Lauren. Thank you, Lauren and Rhonda and Clear. So Lead Consulting and IMS. And Amit, are you here somewhere here too? Thank you for joining us today. We actually have copies of our book, Together We Rise, which is about women supporting women. If you don't already have a copy, we weren't expecting this many people. Please grab a copy. They're up over here and we sign them for you. If you would like a copy, just leave your card up there or write your name down and we'll be sure to send you one. So thank you so much to you. You never realize what can really happen, so you sometimes need to dream a little bigger about the network and the connections that you make. Diana Can here with me, she and I co-founded a group called ARA with our good friend Jane Hamner, 6,000 women, men and women strong across the US. It's really about mentorship and women supporting women. So thank you again to Texter for continually putting this on. It is a true honor to be here. I'm going to share with you a little bit about today's format. So we're actually going to do 3 speed talks, and we have one-on-one conversations happening up here on various conversations, the power of mentorship, kind of finding your why and who you are, how to be true to yourself with your health and mental wellness, and also fighting imposter syndrome. After those conversations, we are going to do roundtables, so sticking to our tradition. Each table should have a moderator placed at the table. If you do not, if someone could volunteer, again, we weren't expecting this many people, so it's a good problem to have. You'll talk about whatever resonated most with you all through the discussions today. And then at the very end, we're going to, assuming we have time, do a quick aha moment from each table very fast. If we don't have time for that, we'll follow up with you all to get that information and share it. We are also going to close with a special pledge that Lauren's going to lead us through. And then on your way out, if you wouldn't mind grabbing the book and then going to the lawn, we're going to take a group picture like we have in the past. Okay? All right, very good. That was a lot. So to kick us off, however, we have a special guest speaker. Cindy is here with us today, Mackenzie, the CIO from Curaleaf. She is representing SIM. And I just want to say again, we're so grateful. How many are from SIM here today? Okay, this is the first time I believe you've actually come to the Women's Luncheon, so thank you for joining us. As I mentioned, just our passion around technology is evident through an association and a conference dedicated to it. However, Cindy has such a great story with her career, what she's done, but also is here to share a little bit more about the SIM Foundation and a nonprofit that she started. So Cindy, thank you.
Hi, nice to be here. Nice to meet everybody. So I'm on the SIM Foundation board, the national board, which is the nonprofit portion of SIM. SIM does an amazing amount of work with STEM programs across the country, gives out over $1 million a year, does mentoring, resume reviews, all types of things. So it's something we take very seriously, that pay it forward piece. And today, over these 2 days, we're hoping, and I think we've already surpassed it. I don't actually know the number we have right now, but we were trying to make $50,000. And I believe we've surpassed that already. All of that goes to Empower, which, if you don't know, Empower is a program that puts veteran spouses, and underserved students through like CompTIA, Google training, and so that they can get entry-level IT jobs. And then FIRST, which is the robotics program, and then the rest of the money we do matching grants to the chapters charities. So to talk about the chapters charities, I actually have one that's SIM has helped fund, I think, for 9 years. It's local to California. It's called STEM Advantage, and it was specifically put together because we realized there were not that many women and underserved communities going into computer science anymore. And we really wanted to make sure that we helped students get through the program and graduate with degrees. And at this point, I think we've put through about 500 students, I think, given out 1.5 million in scholarships, and every single student who's gone through the program got it and has a career and is working. So we take great pride in that. So, I'm a firm believer in paying it forward. As a woman CIO, for a long time I was a unicorn, right? The one thing you can do as a woman in CIO is you go to a conference with 5,000 people. There's no line in that. Right? And, it's like you get to know, like, every woman CIO knows every single woman CIO in Southern California, because we're just not very common. We're still not very common. So all the stuff that you're going to talk about in the session, I think, resonates with all of us. And the best thing we can do is to make sure to help mentor and support each other through this process. I really firmly believe in mentoring and providing that sort of information. So with that, I will let you go. But thank you.
Cindy, thank you for this partnership. We all have something in common. We all support talent, and we all love technology. And to see the people who are helping find the talent join forces with those technologists, our common goal is to attract, retain, and advance women in technology and really make it a welcoming place where more women want to come. So Cindy, kudos to you for all of the work that you're doing to support the scholarships and so forth. So thank you for joining us. Okay, we're going to kick off our speed talks. All right, so our first group, if you come on up and take a seat here. We have joining us on stage, my fellow Together We Rise co-authors. Ron Riggs, who is the CEO of Impresaria, representing IMS today, and Laura Jones, who is the founder of Lead Consulting Solutions. They are going to talk to you about the power of mentorship, overcoming imposter syndrome, and becoming who you are meant to be. So, take it away.
Okay, so we have, that's a lot to cover, so short hearing time.
8 minutes for that?
Yes, 8 minutes to do all of those things, but let's start with mentorship. How many of you have ever had a crisis of confidence? Raise your hand. Crisis of confidence, right? So you can't overcome or obtain your confidence alone. And that's where great mentors come in. And so I want to share with you our story, because for years and years and years, Ron was my mentor. And if I get emotional, it's because mentorship can create this bond that where there's this foundation of trust like no other. I trust her with my kids. I would trust her with anything. And so a crisis of confidence means that you need to surround yourself with the people that you trust and the people that care about your interests. And so you have to be mindful and thoughtful about who you surround yourself with. So in 2011, I had the great vision of being Rana. You interviewed me. Now, let me tell you, Volt took a huge risk in me at that time. I had just had bilateral hip surgery. I was in a wheelchair. I could not walk around like a normal person. I wouldn't walk around like a normal person for nearly 8 months. And yet, she waited for me and said, "You're worth the wait." And so to have that belief, have someone believe in you like that, when you may not necessarily believe in yourself, that gets you to the next stage that you want in life and in your job. But what Rhonda gave me was trust. She trusted me to do my job. She trusted that I had her best interest and the company's best interest at heart. And she allowed me to make mistakes, to fall on my face, because I did that plenty, and I still do that every day, let me tell you. I am the CEO of F-Ups, and I'm telling you what, I've got this perfected. But I feel like I learn more from myself. And so as our mentorship has morphed and evolved and grown, we're now in this position where I get to mentor her a little bit.
Yeah, how awesome is that? So, Lauren's not giving herself enough credit because she nailed the interview and she was amazing. But what I saw in Lauren was that she had so many skills and abilities, but her confidence wasn't there yet, and she needed that nurturing. And so many people need that. That's the power of being there. And really, I didn't even think about it as mentoring at the time because it wasn't really talked about. You didn't really talk about mentoring that much back way long time ago. But now, I took over as CEO for a global staffing company based in the UK, and we had 20 plus different front office systems across the group. And now it's my turn to lean into Lauren and really be able, matter of fact, I think I was one of her first clients at her data consulting. And the power of this relationship has just been amazing. And now this table's turned and I'm saying, "Hey Lauren, what do you think?" Or "How do you do this?" Or and so I think, and I would also like to give one other person in this room some huge credit. So I'm always really good at internal networking. Like within my company, everybody knew who I was. There was no question about it. But I never put myself out there. I wasn't out at these conferences. I wasn't networking. I wasn't building, relationships outside of my immediate circle of coworkers. And then I met Leslie, and she changed my life in such a big way. I was going through a lot at the time with the company that I was with, and And she first thing she did was say, "You're going to do a podcast." And I said, "Oh my God, really? I don't, I just have never really thought about putting myself out there unless it really did change my world." And so there's power in us to lend a hand, to reach out to people and really, try to bring them along. And, there's different ways of mentoring, and it comes in all different shapes and forms. And interestingly enough, in the men in the room, when I think back to people that, my best mentors, and I think we were doing a session recently, and I asked people, it was a roundtable at ASA recently, and I said to the group of about 10 people at my table, I said, how many of you were mentored by a woman? One person raised their hand, right? There you go.
There it is.
But most significant mentors were men. And how many in this room were mentored? If you think about that one person who really changed your life, is it a male or a female? I'm curious. So male, raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Female, I just want to see. Yeah. So, it's interesting because, we, women are not good at supporting other women in general, and I think we're changing that, and that's what we're here to change. That's what our book talks about. It's about women not feeling insecure about helping others rise up, like, I did with Lauren, and now she's doing with me. It is, women have historically, I tell my daughters this all the time, women sometimes are not very nice, so we really have to reach out and try to make sure that we're, not afraid to have another woman rise up above us or, rise up underneath us.
Well, and I think a lot of it's been situational, right? For a long time, there was the one token female position on a board seat or for executive leadership, and so we're clamoring to, get that role, and anybody else, kicking over toddlers to win, and so we can't see the forest for the trees and the damage we're potentially doing to those relationships that will actually help us rise. We're back to 1988 as far as women participating in the workforce. We need each other. We must work together to help one another rise. And I committed to not being a part of the problem anymore. As a matter of fact, I went back and took an inventory of some of my relationships and looked at some of those icier, more competitive relationships. And I asked those women out to lunch. I said, we are better together. And in a 25-year-long career, I've had 2 mentors, both were female, but that's not enough. That's not enough in 25 years. And I found it pretty cold in the environment. And I do write about it in my chapter. I was really conflicted about writing about it because I felt like I was betraying, other women. But I felt like if we didn't talk about it, we wouldn't fix it. And so now we, as Together We Rise, the Lady Leaders Book Club, we are on a mission to help one another rise. And we're going to take a pledge in a little while, because we're going to do this together. You are not alone. Having a mentorship relationship, it begins with you, and it begins with you asking. And we're terrible as women at asking for help, asking for the deal, asking for the clothes, asking for anything that might serve us. We are just terrible. And so, we have a room full of women where we have a safe space to ask for those things. So I want you to have the confidence to approach another woman, look around the table, and see if you see your next mentor or someone that could be a part of your story. Because that's the coolest thing, is now our stories are together.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also want to just mention at the last conference I was at, this is the one that Ron and I had, thank you, Lauren. I had a woman come up to me at the very end. We were doing these roundtable breakouts, and she was up for a promotion. In fact, 2 women, now that I think about it, but up for promotions from COO to CEO. and came to me worried about whether or not they could do it and wanted to set up some time to talk. These are people I didn't know very well, but they had the courage to come up and say, can we meet separately? I really want to talk to you about whether or not I can, have this opportunity. So remember the words of advice they just shared. Please reach out to each other and lean on each other. It is so imperative and important to make change, so please do so. Okay, with that, I want to give a quick shout out to Rob here. So Rob and Lauren actually host the YOE Experience podcast, and we are doing a crossover podcast with Mind the Edge, which represents women in recruitment, and we're interviewing all of the lady leaders from the book. And today dropped our latest episode right now, so check it out. You can find Rob Mann on LinkedIn, and he has it posted today. So thank you for being one of our greatest allies, Rob. Okay, Pat, our next group of speakers. All right, Sarah Martin and Nicole. So Sarah is the president of Dale Workforce Solutions. You all know Sarah from TechServe.
Hopefully the alarm doesn't go off again.
She's a staple here at the luncheon too. And Nicole, this is her first luncheon. Welcome. And Nicole is the president and CEO of ITC. So we're going to have you. Thank you for joining us. They are going to talk about the future of women in tech, understanding your why and finding the news in your voice.
Thank you. Thank you. We're so excited to be here. I actually got an opportunity to meet Sarah. We were going to be looking for each other right after the main kickoff this morning. And when the alarm went going off when she walked up, I thought, oh my God, it's telling me something. There she is. I can walk over. But we had a wonderful discussion this morning. And part of it was talking about women and women in IT. And I was mentioning to Sarah that 56% of women actually leave IT between 10 to 20 years of their technology career, and that's double what men leave. And oftentimes people think, oh, well, that makes sense. It's because they're leaving because they're raising a family. And in fact, that's not the case. And they're actually leaving because there's lack of advancement within the technology department where they're in, or thank you for the mentorship portion, but there's lack of mentorships within organizations. And so they're leaving IT, and we all work so hard, like Cindy McKenzie, right, with your STEM Advantage, trying to get young people to work hard and we finally get them in. And as a recruitment firm, we hire them in, and then what happens? They're in the corporation and they leave just 10, 15, 20 years later. And then we, as an industry as a whole, are lacking these individuals, right? And so really the discussion is, and maybe it's something that we all want to think about today in our group discussions, is what can we do as women, as companies, as leaders, to make sure that we have women stay within these organizations, and what can companies be readily able to do to support that? And it was interesting because as we were talking, you had brought up a really interesting story about yourself and kind of what you've gone through in your career, and I know you wanted to share that as well.
So this is working good. Okay, so yeah, we had a really nice introduction this morning, and I was telling Nicole that I worked for a very, very large public company, and I rose up over 30 years. I was the highest ranking female officer in the company running a business unit. It's not on, right? I do talk loud.
Oh, there we go. That's better. Yeah.
I could hear you. I never told I was too quiet. So. And my business was the best performing business unit in the company, and it was kind of a startling experience, which I'll share in a minute. But I went through a lot of different emotions, which I can say that hindsight is an incredible gift. So while I was in that role, there were no other women for me to really relate to or talk to. There was no allyship, mentorship. The company I worked for was not committed to an environment, a community of inclusion. In fact, I would say it was almost committed to a community of suppression, I would say. And at the end of the day, in my mind, I was untouchable. I was leading this incredible business unit. My team loved me. I managed from underneath, as we all do. So women tend to think of themselves at the bottom and not at the top. And one day, out of the blue, they came to me and said, "We've eliminated your role, and we're giving it to Andy." And Andy was a buffoon. Sorry, but, and he didn't know anything about my business, and I was completely undermined and shocked. But it was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. I know it sounds strange, but I learned so much about what happens at large companies. Sometimes the earth is moving under you and you don't realize it. So we don't think about looking out for those signs that things are changing around us, because we're taught to think about what's in front of us, how do we make our people better, how do we make our business better, but we're not really worried so much about ourselves. We don't manage up really well, at least I know I didn't. We don't look out for the signs, we don't raise our hand often enough, and so, it was a very interesting situation, and I know now what I would do differently, but I just wanted to share my story because it was kind of an interesting time of my life.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So Nicole, I know you mentioned what do you think women can do differently, or what are some of the key takeaways that they can take from this discussion to promote themselves, protect themselves?
Great question, and I wish we had a lot more time, right? But so I was explaining to Sarah, I run a women in leadership program. Some of you have been very involved in it. It's throughout the United States, and it's a free program for technology women to join, and it's run by a group of CIOs, and I always look for a lot of CIO mentors, and I think one of the challenges that women face most and foremost is that the lack of confidence that we all hold within ourselves, as well as the inability to put ourselves forward and just take a little bit of a risk. And I would love for each person to know, and for any technology executives or anybody out there, for us as women, is now more than ever, CEOs of large companies, mid-sized, small companies are looking for you. Are looking for you if you only apply. And I like to say, I talk quite often about women versus men and gender roles. And women, we feel it's not just a cast of broad thing, and of course there's deviations to this, but as women, we feel that we have to have everything dialed in, meaning we can suffer from perfection syndrome. And so if we get a job description that has 100 items on it, we'll look at that and we'll say, okay, I have 95 of the 100. I'm not going to apply because I need another certification. Maybe I should be in the infrastructure a little bit. Down here, I'm going to look at that same thing. I love them and say I've got 64 of the 100 I'm going for. I'm perfect for the job. And guess what? We as women find ourselves oftentimes working for people who are less qualified than we are. Why? Because we did not take that risk and move ourselves forward. So if I had to leave with one thing today, is please just take a little bit of that gumption that you have, just put a flyer out there and say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. And oftentimes, I'm telling you, I've seen it time and time again in our courses. What's happening is these women are getting the roles that they want. And so people are looking for us. In our time, we have a very short time. People's attention focuses very, very quickly on something else, and now the time's on us. So let's take advantage of that as a group. And so that's what I believe.
That's awesome. And I would say also just, we don't need just mentorship. We need allyship. We need people to pull other women forward. And I think there's enough women in this room that have a lot of experience on the table. You can be responsible for pulling up women. It's wonderful to have mentors, and I truly believe in that. But it's not just the mentorship relationship. You need to have people on that are part of your team, that are on your A team, that will pull you with them. So I would challenge everyone to do some pulling of your own.
That's great. And hopefully we'll be allyships too.
Yeah.
Now that we know one another. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. And Nicole actually just was on the podcast last week. She's probably not sharing much about her CIO program, but it's one of the only ones I've ever seen to very specifically rise up women into the CIO position and role. So I would highly encourage you to check it out and reach out to Nicole if you'd like more information on it. It is definitely one way we can get more women in technology in the C-suite. Okay, our last duo here, we have Jennifer Waldrop, and she is a VP of Client and Talent Solutions and a partner at ProFocus. And Megan McCann, who I mentioned earlier, is also a co-founder with me of ARA, Advancing in Technology. She's also the founder and CEO of McCann Partners, and they are going to share their journeys of health and wellness with us today.
Megan, you have props. Talk to us about your props.
Thank you. Many of you in this room, I think, have received this as a gift from me. This is my gratitude journal, and it is a practice that I started years ago as a way of grounding myself. And I will tell you, I have fallen for them and back over the last few years. I'm back at it. In fact, I just started in the month of November, a new one. And I was struck today because of the quote. If you're not familiar with this, there's a quote for the day, and then you're to list what you're grateful for, what would make today great, a daily affirmation. You do that in the morning, and then in the evening, you do the highlights of the day and what I learned. The quote today, this is the power of the universe. What we do every day matters more than what we do once in a while. And so, I was on my yoga mat, and it's completely not a plan that matches my outfit, but I own that for the whole thing. And we want to show up and ask for mentorship, we want to show up and advocate for ourselves, but if we don't take care of ourselves and ground ourselves, it's really difficult to do that. And Leslie knows this, she's heard it, Casey, you've heard it. I've had a really difficult time keeping up with these rituals over the last couple years, and it's impacted me. It has not impacted my business, but it's impacted me. Do I have highs right now? I have highs. I never used to get highs from a spoken person, never. But I did because I quit doing the things that were grounding me religiously. And I know that if we don't do those rituals, things every day that take so little time, 30 minutes this morning on an app in my hotel room, 5 minutes to do a gratitude journal. It helps me show up better for my team, my family, my niece and nephew, my godson Grayson. And that's what I want to do. I want to leave the world a little bit better by showing up. And see, here's the crazy thing, everyone. We met one another yesterday. We had never talked before. We did not prep. And you brought props too.
Yeah, so, because dessert isn't dessert if it's not chocolate, I did bring some chocolate. So there's dark chocolate on your table. And I brought that for two reasons. One is research shows that chocolate promotes happiness. And I have to make sure that that's actually true. So feel free. But the second reason I brought it is I love to share with others things that bring me joy. And that is one of the small things that I can bring as an example that bring me joy, because I think that's what also helps really ground us. And I think it's about determining what your foundation is. And I am thankful to know who I am, why I am here, and where I am headed. And there are things that I do in my life that help me ground that foundation and build upon it. And dark chocolate is one of those things, I will tell you, as well as more meaningful things. But that's a little bit about what we brought to share with you.
And when you think about the one thing you could give up in your wellness plan in order to bring your best self to your family, to your team, is there something that just is a non-negotiable thing?
My husband would tell you I have lots of things that are non-negotiable. But for me, it's daily exercise. And I hear it's common to fall off the wagon, as Megan said, but for me that doesn't ever happen. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else because of that. I'm grateful that that's the case, and I think it's just because that is part of me. That's who I am. Every day of my life, that's the first thing I do is plan into my day, is to get up and work out in the morning. And I love it. I'm thankful that I love to exercise and not everybody does. But the other thing is sometimes that quick 30 minutes in the morning isn't enough when you have a very long day. So one of the things I also worked into my schedule to sometimes 3 days a week is I block out bar class at noon. And if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. And when that's there, we do go. And the days that I don't do that, I work through lunch all day. And so I think that exercise really makes a difference in that.
It's interesting giving ourselves grace to do the things which make us feel better in order to feel more confident, in order to show up better. It's we don't always give ourselves the same advice we would give our best friend, and we have to change that narrative, I believe.
I think that's so true. I love to be making hearing about our gratitude journals. There's a couple from our books team here in the room, and they probably recognize that I shared with Megan that we do that for Chorus in the month of November. But hopefully others do it all year round. But every day we take a minute and jot down something we're thankful for. If you haven't researched what gratitude does for your overall well-being and happiness, you should. I don't have time to share the research studies, that they're amazing. Gratitude promotes happiness. And so in my teen status, every day this month, my goal is to change my status with one thing I'm thankful for. And so far, so good. I'm gonna get it.
It's a beautiful thing. I think when you come from a place of gratitude, you also realize that you're in abundance versus scarcity, and that can make a difference with everything we do when we show up for others.
So what's something that you feel like we can really do to make sure we bring our best selves for those around us?
I think that we need to take time to invest in ourselves, to invest time in our gratitude journal, or taking a walk, or playing with your godson, looking for mushrooms. That's Grayson's new favorite thing to do. It's putting together care packages for my niece and nephew so that they know that I love them from afar. Casey is making sure Casper's okay. For anyone that knows, this is an inside joke that we had. So it's just taking the moments to do those things. I don't get anything of great magnitude. It's just a couple of minutes, and when you invest in yourself, then you can give more to others.
Yeah, I would sum that up with, there's a reason on the airplane they say to put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist others. And that's what we need to do as women. I believe being a woman is a very special role in this world. So let's make sure we all put our own oxygen masks on first so that we help those around us.
So I'm gonna just do one more thing, and I'm gonna model woman. Will you be my accountability partner?
I would be honored.
So there's a great book called How Women Rise, not to be confused with Together Rise. But one of the things that they talk about is if you say it out loud, and you have an accountability to do it. So I highly encourage you all. So Jennifer, how do we start our day out today?
We went on a run slash walk together.
Yeah, texted Jen at like 6 o'clock, hey. What are you out for a run walk? Yes, I'm in. We didn't even talk about work really at all, about personal things happening in our lives. And I just cherish those. So remember to try to do that while you're here too with other people you know. Okay, for the next 10 minutes, we're going to go ahead and have a roundtable discussion. Each of you should have someone at your table who are planned to lead this discussion. If you do not, then someone would volunteer, that would be awesome. And again, you're just to talk about what you heard here today, what resonated with you, and then come back to us with anything that takes place. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you did, we're going to see you experience live from TechServe 2022, the Women's Luncheon. Time to get accountable.